and welcome to Cambridge, where we are working for the next couple of weeks after coming back from Ibiza. It is a little bit colder here.
Yes, we had nice weather in Ibiza. If you saw episode 9, it was lovely, still could swim. It changed a little bit. It's a problem with sailing in the winter in the Med is that you sort of need to have the time to get your weather window. We were a bit pushed coming back because of this work, and wind got up and the swell as well, and you'll see the Mediterranean's not that benign.
And we got rather wet, but we're okay, the boat's okay. I hope you enjoy the film.
Coming up, hitting the waves on our way back from Ibiza. Sailing into an abandoned marina. Our neighbours re-rig their boat, ready for an Atlantic crossing. It all began peacefully, anchored outside Ibiza town. More paddleboard practice. Steve is getting quite good.
So this is the beauty really of the paddleboard. You're standing up and lovely clear water like this. You just get a fantastic view right through the water. Nice still sunny morning here, which is just as well. It's not easy to paddleboard when there's a bit of a swell going on. The boat's swaying around a little bit in just the little bit of wake from the ferries that go past here. But it's still nice and quiet. There's no wind. We're pretty much sitting over the top of our anchor, which is just here. We managed to get it in a little bit of sand, which is good. Judy's having a rest on the paddleboard.
It's lovely. Relaxing.
It is lovely. It's a very nice bay, this. It's just round the headland, this headland here, from where all the marinas are. And the marinas are all about €70 a night plus for us. So nicer to be in here, all in all. And one funny thing, if you look closely on the hillside up here on the chart, it always has distinguishable marks on headlands, and it has these 3 windmills that you can just about see up there. Wouldn't really call them distinguishing marks anymore. A bit of building's gone on since they did the charts, I think.
As we set off for Santa Eulalia further up the coast, I'm taking a break on what's become our favourite place on the boat, Bowsprit, Ibiza. We did row ashore further up the coast, where there's a lovely promenade and a quiet anchorage. Off-season, the beach is almost deserted. It was our last chance for a meal ashore for a while, as we knew the wind was getting up. But it is so nice to be in an uncrowded restaurant.
Sure enough, for the next 24 hours it was quite windy. But because it was blowing offshore, we were safe in the anchorage.
The wind we were expecting has arrived. It's gusting 40 knots in the anchorage this morning. We were in a good spot. We knew it was coming, so we found a nice sheltered spot. But I have put the bridle on. I know we talked about anchoring quite a lot in the last episode, so I'll make it brief. But this is what we have here. You might just about be able to see there that I've got a special little hook that goes on the chain that I can attach the bridle to. So you slip that over the top, and I've got it coming back and round the Samson post here, and I let a little bit more chain out so that just hangs loose. So our big delta should be able to cope with this, no problem at all. It's only really swell that really compromises your anchor if you've got a decent anchor. We've got hardly any fetch, so we're not too worried about the wind. I think we're fairly secure. Might need to rescue my shorts before they blow away though.
The wind in the whole region was predicted to increase, so we planned our passage quite carefully. We left the protection of the anchorage in an early lull and should have a good wind on the beam, taking us through quite a narrow gap between Ibiza and Formentera. But then we faced a powerful headwind on the trip back to Spain. It's not ideal, but it was the best opportunity to sail for the next couple of weeks, so we made the choice to go.
Just get the bridle off before we can get going. We drop that in the water. It's out the other side. It's always a bit of a faff, but it's worth it. It gives you a better night's sleep.
Within an hour or so, we left the shelter of the land, and there is quite a swell. The wind is also picking up to around 25 knots. We put in a couple of reefs from the start, which is just as well as the gap between the islands is quite shallow, and that can make for a rough ride.
It is pretty choppy going through this gap. We've got 17 metres now, but it went down to about 7 metres under us. So, pretty special space.
We'd already changed our route, opting for a bigger gap further down than we'd originally planned, because the wind was stronger than predicted and in a slightly different direction.
One of the good things about a long-keeled boat is that they track pretty well. There's fairly extreme conditions with the swell that we've got here to get a track on our own, but I've turned the auto helm off and I'm just going to lock off the binnacle here where I've got where I want her. Key to that is to get the sails well balanced, obviously. The sails are balanced, and you can tell that on this. You can't really tell on the wheel because it's hydraulic steering, so you don't get the feedback from the wheel, but you can have a look just at the gauge and make sure that the rudder's nice and centred, which it is now. So hopefully with that locked off, she should just now track nicely. She did in the middle of Biscay at one time. I thought I had auto helm on and it was off. And we sailed all night. It was about midnight when I did that, and by 6 in the morning I noticed we were off by about 1 degree, and trying to bring the auto helm round wasn't doing it, and then I noticed it was switched off. She had tracked all night on her own. So yeah, it's a nice feature of a long-keeled boat.
Once on the other side, we can see the waves crashing on the shore behind us. We'd planned to take the shortest route to Spain, but the change in wind direction meant we had to aim further south, which was going to take a few hours longer. This isn't exactly what I had in mind when Steve said, "Let's go sailing in the Med," but hey, with a bit of appropriate music, it will be fine. Tacking in these conditions is a bit of a challenge, but it meant we could keep sailing and get to the coast by early evening. One of the problems of sailing at this time of year is you lose the light quite early. When the time came to wind in the Yankee, we hit a problem. The jury rig Steve had made a few months earlier failed, and we had a riding turn in the reefing line, so he had to bring the sail down by hand. Not easy in these conditions. That and the clue whipping out of the staysail made us a sorry sight as we motorsailed past Benidorm. What a sight! I know a lot of people come here for holidays, but I wasn't expecting quite as many hotels. I think they're hotels. Our nighttime destination is a little more remote, in an abandoned marina at the entrance to the Mar Menor. There is quite a specific route which is marked but very shallow. Then we had to turn off the route to get into the marina, and that was completely unmarked. First we had to negotiate the fish farm, which was not well lit, but we did eventually make it.
I hope so, yeah.
So we snuck in here last night. It's a bit of a strange place, disused marina. You've got to be a bit careful with the depth, so I'll switch the navionics over to the sonar chart, which will give us a better indication. Judy's just going to take us out slowly.
The wind is nicely behind us.
6 knots just under reefed mainsail, that's not bad. Stick the Yankee out as well. That's lovely, we're flying. We've just filled up with fuel. We've got to get out of the fuel dock here. It's a little bit tight, so I'm going to show you as we go out a little bit of manoeuvring called back and fill, which is what you do with a long-keeled boat like this. It's a little bit more difficult to, well, it's not difficult, it's different to manoeuvre than a fin-keeled boat. Once you're used to it, actually it's quite good, I think. So Judy's just taking the spring line off now, and we're obviously just dead alongside the berth here. And the good thing about a long-keeled boat is you can actually move it sideways. I'm going to move the wheel all the way over as if we were steering hard to port, and then give ourselves a little bit of backwards way and then blast her forwards. And what that does, you'll see, is actually just move the back of the boat out. So I'll do the same again, just go backwards just so we've got a tiny bit of backwards way on, and then blast her forwards. And I've got a bow thruster as well, obviously, so I can keep the front out, but this is moving the back of the boat in that way without actually going forwards at all. So it means that you can crab yourself along, and actually you can move a long-keeled boat pretty much about a length and a quarter probably of its own length. You can turn it in its own length. A little bit forward with the bow thruster, a bit of reverse, a little bit forward with the bow thruster. And you can see that's it. Didn't take long, 360 in pretty much the length of the boat. Well, you might be thinking that blasting backwards and forwards would be bad for the engine doing the back and fill, but actually nothing could be further from the truth. Loading a diesel engine is a very good thing every now and again. Might not be good for the gearbox and the folding prop if you're doing it too viciously. You've got to be careful with how you do it. But yeah, putting load on a diesel engine is actually a very good thing, and I can show you here. I'm taking the exhaust elbow off. If we bring this around, you'll see just how coked up it is, and actually the outlet end is the bit you really need to see here. It's surprising actually any water could come through this. It looked like it was completely sealed. Back to the new one. and yeah, you can see just how coked up it is.
Steve's not the only one working on his boat. Our neighbour Ross has just replaced all his standing rigging, and he flew riggers out from England to do it.
This boat's going to take us a long way. It's a very heavy boat, so you've got to get the right specified rig for the heavy for the displacement of the boat.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have really good quality steel. So I know in the context back in the UK, I knew I was going to get really good quality German steel, but that did mean that I had to measure the rig myself, which meant there's a lot of time.
Did you get it right?
Yeah, we got it absolutely bang on. They were very generous. They gave me a 5mm tolerance, which for 17, 18mm lengths was quite stressful.
Yeah.
But we got it all right, and I replaced a whole lot from clevis pin to clevis pin.
Yeah.
So very happy that everything's all intact. The chain plates are in great condition.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy that this rig should stay up now.
And the wire, I mean, it looks pretty special stuff. I mean, you look at this here, it's flat. What were you saying it's called? Diform?
Yeah, well, this is diform wire. So this is considerably stronger than the 1x19 we've got on the caps and the intermediates and the baby stay.
Yeah.
So the diform is about 30% stronger, and it has a lot less stretch. So that's for the back stays, the forestays, and these really heavy load-bearing aft lowers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tension on those.
I mean, cost, how did that compare doing it this way to actually if you'd had to do it here?
The cost was kind of irrelevant. My view, I always think about when I'm spending money on the boat, not when I'm spending it in the marina or in the boatyard, but if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I've got 50 knots, it's 2 or 3 grand worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth it every time.
Ross and Lisa are planning to sail around the world, but in the meantime they have an enviable lifestyle. They spend most of their time on the boat, but in the winter they run a ski lodge in Courchevel.
So we tend to do 5 months up the mountain and then 7 months on the boat, and that's quite a nice balance, really.
I remember when I first saw a careers officer at school, they said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to be a sailing instructor in the summer and I want to be a ski instructor in the winter.
Yeah.
And it's that sort of dream, isn't it?
We used to have real jobs, and it used to use up a lot of our time having real jobs, and we weren't having as much fun as we needed to when we weren't working. So stopping work came about quite quickly. We decided not to work anymore. I stopped, and then Lisa took a sabbatical. But we didn't have enough money, so doing the skiing thing really works for us. But as to why we did it, the long-term plan was always to go sailing, and if you've got to work, do something you enjoy.
You say it's a long-term plan, but of course in the Med it's quite easy to go off for the winter. When you go further afield, what's the plan then?
The plan is to work while we're in the Med, and then when our pensions arrive, then we'll cross the Atlantic, where it's not so easy to get back.
The Med's great. You've got a short season, really. You've got the season where the charter boats are causing mayhem, so we try and hide then and go and find nice quiet places to be. You've got the shoulders of the charter season, which are great, and then the winters. Quite frankly, marinas are fine, they are what they are, but I don't want to live on a really small housing estate, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
That's not why we're living on the boat. We're living on a boat to have an adventure and go, and not be tourists. And I think it's easy to become locked into being a tourist if you stick into a marina for too long.
The Oyster is a new boat for the couple who are clearly seasoned sailors, and it has some luxuries.
So guest accommodation, which is something we really wanted from the new boat, having slightly more space for everybody.
And you've got storage. That is a pretend pilot berth, isn't
Well,
it?
it's not a pretend one. They are full-size bunks.
Right.
So you can I can lay down on both of them. They're
Oh,
sort of
wow.
stocked up with stuff, but they are full-size bunk beds, so you can get 2 adults here.
Okay.
And when you come in here, you'll see the bunk actually carries on.
Oh, right.
So if we haven't got a wardrobe that side, there's a wardrobe this
But
side.
unless you've got loads of people, this is probably enough,
But this
isn't it,
is enough,
friends?
and for that just makes fantastic storage. So, and that was one of the things we wanted to be in the old boat. Although we had 2 cabins, one of them was always a storage room, really. Whereas now the bunks have become the storage room, and then you have a really good double cabin, and then they've got a second heads here, but with Jack and Jill doors. So if you have got people out there,
I see.
they
That's a
don't
good
have
idea.
to disturb the other people. So that's quite nice.
Yeah.
The other change is that they now have what I call a proper bed.
say, we loved the Bowman, but not being able to sit up in bed and read a book, you know, over the winter when you
And
want
coming
to
in,
just
you've
sit.
each got your own side.
Yeah, we don't have to climb over anyone, don't have to
Exactly.
wake the other person up, and it's bigger than any bed we've had in a house. It's enormous, so it's great. It's fantastic. It's, you know, it's been life-changing having a proper bed on the boat.
And good light, that's the other thing you need, isn't it?
Really good light, and also for the men, just air. I think that was the other thing we found with in the V berth where we were before. There just wasn't a lot of air, and occasionally we'd sleep in the cockpit if we wanted more air. So, but yeah, we've got lots of hatches, daylight. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Is this air conditioning here?
It is.
Oh my god.
I know. And here. So yeah, we've got aircon as well, which is a real nice.
And does that
thing.
act as a heating as well in the winter?
No, the heating one is behind. There's a blower behind the
okay.
door, so we do have heating in the winter as well.
Right.
Which is quite nice. But yeah, we've never had aircon before, but and we didn't really need it particularly.
Yeah,
but as
see, I thought you were real sailors until that.
Stop it.
We haven't used it.
Looking around at other people's boats, I think that's one of the things I like best about doing this vlog. It's an excuse to be nosy.
Yeah, me too. And it seems like from your comments, it's something that you guys like that, and the interviews and the other bits and pieces we do. And we're thinking of doing more than that. We said at the beginning of this process, at the beginning of the year, that if we got more than 2,000 subscribers, by the end of the year we would carry on and really go for it next year and try and do this properly. Well, we've got a lot more than that, so thank you to everyone that's subscribed and keep doing that.
We're going to put out a survey so we find out exactly what it is that you would like us to do more of, if we can. That's our plan anyway. So do go onto our website, sailingfarewell.com, fill in the survey. We'll compile what everyone says and see you in the new year. We'll try and put out a video around Christmas time. So Merry Christmas and thank you very much for watching.
Thanks for watching.